Show me what you got, show me what you got. Show me what you got, show me what you got. Riding down your block with that thing, about to let it go.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining edition of Agile Takes. We take a few minutes today to discuss, well, the craziness of things happening. And we have a tremendous person who's joining us today, Mitch Tanenbaum, the CISO at Turnkey Cybersecurity and Privacy Solutions, a partner of AgileBlue's. We're thrilled about this discussion because we're going to dive into navigating deepfakes. And Mitch, I'm so interested to hear how you're going to talk about this coming off that article that you wrote, which was awesome, because we've seen some of these things actually personally starting to happen. So I have questions for you, man. I got a lot of questions for you. So first of all, thank you for the subject, because I think people listening to this are going to find this fascinating. So welcome.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's definitely going to be a subject for which there is no easy short-term answer. I don't think we're going to come up with a short-term easy solution, because it's really a challenge.
Absolutely. So I just referenced that article that you wrote, that deepfakes are coming for your brand and your bank. Okay, those are two things that scare the heck out of everybody, or should, right? If you have no money or no brand, you got a problem. You got a problem. But do me a favor, talk us into a little bit about where you see this harm proliferating. And I have to assume AI is also going to be a topic today, because that's making deepfakes look and sound really, really good. But maybe walk us through a little bit. Share some of these insights.
So let's first of all start with what is a deepfake. So a deepfake is typically, as you said, AI is involved. Nowadays, it is an AI-based impersonation of either an employee, typically an employee, and it is having the employee say things that the employee never said. So, if the CEO, if someone creates a deep fake of the CEO saying, gee, our product is crap and you shouldn't buy it, and then they post that on social media, then you're in a position where you have to defend your product from something you never even said. And so that's kind of the crux of what a deep fake is. And they're using AI to go off and replicate your voice, to go replicate your facial movements. And they do that. It does not take a lot of source material. That's the scary part. So, if Tony, you or I have lots of recordings on the web, that's more than enough information to go off and train an AI and how to go sound like you, or have facial movements. And then if you add to that maybe the hacker who's doing this, has compromised your systems already. This assumes, of course, that you don't have AgileBlue, because if you did, then you'd know. But assuming you're not an AgileBlue customer yet, then they know perhaps what your speaking style, your writing style from emails is, so they can blend that into it. Or even if they get emails or letters or whatever that you sent to somebody, to a third party, then they can grab that data and use that. And all of that, using AI, is designed to make something that is very, very believable. And we've seen a number of examples. We've seen this in the political sphere, and I anticipate we'll see that a lot in the 2024 election cycle, where people go off and say, this candidate for this office, and this could be anywhere from the local level all the way up to the national level, having a candidate say something that they never said.
That's right. And as we know today, where that's such a fantastic point, is people don't care about the second part. So if somebody says something nasty and awful, and then they come back out and said that was a deep fake, probably 1% of the people who said, boy, this guy's awful, I wouldn't vote for him, never heard him say, hey, this wasn't my deep fake here, this was obviously a fake thing. That's scary.
It's worse than that, Tony, because what if you as a candidate come back and say that's a deep fake? The people are going to say, well, of course he's going to say it's a deep fake. but we know he really said it. Now that he got caught at it, he's trying to pretend that he didn't say it, but he really did say it.
I might start using that with my daughters when they ask me permission for things and I give it and I want to take it back. I might say that was a deep fake. Come on. But no, Mitch, keep going. Like, election is one thing. Starting a nuclear war or a potential kinetic war because you say something that is absolutely awful or evil or the wrong thing. I mean, there is some use cases in the EU where there were some deepfakes. I believe they were mimicking Russian opposition figures. That can get pretty scary, right? I mean,
right.
just thinking about what's happening kinetically in Israel, and which is extraordinarily unfortunate.
Right.
What's happening in the Ukraine, but that could really take things up a notch, unfortunately.
I know that's absolutely true. We already saw that a deep fake of the head of the African Union actually got meetings scheduled with heads of various countries in the EU and held those meetings. And the heads of the EU that they spoke to did not know they were talking to a deep fake. So now think about that. So, and take it back to your corporate world, right? What if, you as a CEO of a company are, invited to a meeting with somebody that's important to you, like an important customer, but that is really a deep fake of the customer. And the customer, the deep fake of the customer goes off and says, any number of things. You got to think of the scenario, and agrees to do things that they never did, they would never agree to, or tells you need to do things which the customer would never tell you to do, and you think it came directly from the customer, and in fact, it's detrimental to the customer, and then the customer goes off and sues you.
That's a problem. That's a problem.
It's interesting that the African Union, their solution to this is going back to paper. And now, as I said in that blog post you were talking about, nobody has ever forged a piece of paper, so I'm sure that's super secure. If in fact you go back to piece of paper, what you basically have to do in order to protect yourself is out of band verification. That's really the only thing you can do. So you have to use a known good channel, whether it's a phone call, known good email, whatever it is, to go off and verify that what you think is happening is in fact happening before you execute. What we're seeing with cyber insurance policies with regard to business email compromise and changing who you're paying, is that if you don't do an out-of-band verification, even though you've been paying the premium, you have no coverage.
Yeah, that's pretty scary. Then, I mean, if you think about what those ramifications look like, they can spiral out of control pretty darn quickly. Let me throw this at you.
Go.
So I get a bunch, and just like probably everybody who's listening here, I'm sure like you'll get a call and you'll say hello and it's just nothing. And you're like, oh God, where's this, what's this going to end up?
Right,
So
right.
a few months ago, I got a text message, a voice text message from one of our employees saying, Tony, I've switched bank accounts. My new payroll needs to be deducted or pushed here. First of all, I don't handle payroll at my company. We have a number of employees that would need to go to HR. So right then I'm there, I'm like, oh, this is bad. So I called this guy up and I'm like, hey, dude, how's your new bank account? Like, he's like, what are you talking about? And we laughed it off. It was a joke. They spoofed his actual mobile number. So it came across as this person, which that's scary too. No video, right. Just audio. But are you seeing that when you get a call and there's no one on the other end, and you're saying, hello, who is this? Can you hear me? That's a way that they might be gleaning some of this data from us?
Well, it's worse than that. They're gleaning individual words. Like one recently I heard was they're trying to get you to evoke the word yes, so that they can then use that word elsewhere to cause your bank, for example, to do something.
Wow.
So that's an interesting challenge. But fundamentally, the challenge we have as businesses is that we've attempted to optimize the business process as much as we can, because time is money, and when we remove the checks and balances out of the business process, that's where the hackers can be successful.
It's, Mitch, we are technology people. I'm a technologist. You're a technologist. Everybody's a technologist these days, to be candid. It doesn't matter what industry you're in.
Uh-huh.
But the more we digitize, the more we rely on this technology, which is great. Don't get me wrong, which is great. I mean, we're building AI. Everybody's building AI. These tools can easily be turned against us. And it's like, my goodness, maybe the African Union going back to paper is onto something. Now, we're never going to do that. We all know that. But wow, the chances of getting hacked or fraud or they've just gone up by a huge multiple, and that's scary.
And it is, and the AI tools. There was a paper that was put out by some tech leaders, about 3 or 4 months ago, saying we need to go put a pause on AI and blah
Right.
blah. That's not going to happen. It's not. There's way too much excitement in the industry. Nobody wants to get left behind as a vendor, and that's not going to happen. So what that means, though, is as a business leader, you have to figure out what you need to do to protect your company. We just saw, for example, Samsung
Hmm.
banned OpenAI from
Right.
from their employees because they realized they did not have either apparently the training, because people were doing things that they shouldn't have been, or the policies, or
Hmm.
the detection capabilities, and that's obviously something that AgileBlue can help with. The challenge is going to be, how do we go off and figure out what we want to detect?
Right.
But if we can figure out what we want to detect, then tools like AgileBlue can help detect that and throw up the alert, and even with your SOAR platform, can even go off and literally stop it in its tracks.
Yeah. No, it's a great point, Mitch. And I'll tell you, when you just brought up the yes and the say no and you don't think about those things. Maybe give a couple points of what do you do. So if you're a CEO, you're listening to this saying, okay, I got to talk to my people. We really got to focus on this and this. What are the this and this?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. The first one is training your employees. That's number
Hmm.
one, right? We've had so many examples from our client base in our consulting business where a CFO gets a supposed voicemail from the CEO asking them to move money,
Yep.
and the CFO says, "Well, he's right next door. I am literally going to get off my butt and walk next door and ask him if he did that."
Right.
It's very easy. Um,
Yep.
that's number one. Number two, figure out what you need to do from AI policies. And right now, it's going to be lean because we don't really understand everything. But now is the time to start. And we've added AI policies to our policy packages for people that go off and buy our policy packages, because you've got to at least get a framework in there. That's number two. And be open to knowing that this is going to change. This is not going to be um, a static thing. You'll do it once and it'll be handled.
But like you said, as long as we can work the policies, as long as we can train our teams, we have a better chance to sidestep these things. To find Mitch, um, please check Mitch out at Turnkey Cybersecurity and PrivacySolutions.com. If you can't remember that, shoot us an email through AgileBlue. We'll make sure you get in touch with Mitch and his team, and they do tremendous stuff, obviously, from policies and programs and CISO work. They're tremendous. Mitch, thank you so much for joining. This has been probably my favorite episode because we're actually seeing these deep fakes everywhere these days. Pretty scary.
Thanks, Tony.